So, in my slideshow, I'm going to cover the progress of women's rights in the 20th century, highlighting their achievements, certain bills that were passed to give them rights. Now, if we go back to the year 1900, right, 2/3 of divorce cases are initiated by the wife. A century earlier, women didn't have this right to divorce, to sue their husbands. Let's say they were abused or something, they were forced to stay in these marriages. Now, in 1911, we have the Triangle Shirtwaist Company fire that kills 146 factory workers. Most of them were young women, so they had horrible working conditions. And right here, thousands of women suffragists marched on Capitol Hill, trying to fight for voting rights. Jeannette Rankin of Wisconsin becomes first woman elected to the U.S. Congress. Now I'm going to ask you guys, especially the females, think of how big this was. Like 17 years earlier, that was like unheard of to ever happen. Now here, 39% of all college graduates are women, compared to 19% in 1900. That is huge because that shows that when women were given opportunities to go to college, they were quick to pick it up, you know? These women weren't slackers. Now, in 1923, Equal Rights Amendment will be proposed in Congress, but not passed. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to how long it'll take to get passed. In the 1930s, we have Amelia Earhart becomes the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. And then Frances Perkins in 1933 becomes the first woman member of the cabinet. And 1938, the Great Depression happens. So women are taking low-wage minimal jobs. They're starting to go to work. They're not just at home, you know what I mean? They're getting these opportunities to work. Rosie the Riveters in the 1940s. Due to us being in war, many women had to work in the industrial industry, and some even joined the military. But guess what? In 1945, when men start coming back, women just lose their jobs, which was not fair because 80% of them didn't want to go back to just staying at home. And here we see, since women didn't necessarily have like a sports league that they could play in, they were excluded, they created their own. 1950s, we have the working mother. In addition to, let's say, having children, because we had the whole baby boom, women no longer just wanted to stay at home. They wanted to be independent, and they were now receiving the opportunities to do this. When Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a Caucasian male, she became the mother of the civil rights movement, which shows how the women's rights movement connects with civil rights. And then, by 1957, the amount of men and women voting is about equal. In the 1960s, we have the Equal Pay Right passed, but it pretty much didn't even matter because guess what? It didn't cover domestics, agricultural workers, executive administrators, or professionals. So I ask you all, did it really make a difference at all? In the 1960s, we have Janis Joplin becomes like the first female rock star. And you know, she was very wild, had this party lifestyle, but a lot of male rock stars had these lifestyles before. And it was okay, so it was almost like a double standard. But now she shows, hey, I can live my life the way I want to. In 1972, the Equal Rights Amendment finally passed. It only took 49 years for us in society to realize this was needed. Roe versus Wade gives us the right to legal abortion. In the 1980s, Charlie's Angels, the impact of this TV show shows it wasn't just about, you know, these pretty women. It was about them being these wise detectives who were solving these very intense cases. And in 1978, for the first time in history, more women than men are graduating from college. Sandra Day O'Connor becomes first woman appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has power of interpretation of the law. Now this shows that women are being recognized for being able to interpret the law of the U.S. Geraldine Ferraro is the first woman vice presidential candidate. Do you realize if you're vice president, you're like second in command? Like, this is amazing. Now we finally realize that women have the power to rule our country. By the 1990s, we have Hillary Clinton, who was the first lady to Bill Clinton, but she wasn't just laying back. She was advocating for what she thought was right. She was pretty much doing things that were equal to, let's say, what the president would do, advocating for health insurance and many other causes. So now let's look at how far we have come. You know, I'm going to highlight some of you guys. You know, why is it important that we recognize women's rights and that we fight for it? Because guess what? If in this land we say that there is truly equality between all men and women, we need to fight for women's rights. Because last time I checked, who gives birth to you? A woman. If I'm you, and if we truly want to fight for a great country, we all need to join together and fight for women's rights. And that fight is not over yet. Today, unfortunately, women are still not paid the same way men are. And we need to continually fight together, men and women, all to achieve equality for women.